Good evening, I'm David Brown, and welcome to the Northern Sun Experience. Ever since the NSIC split into two divisions in 2008, Minnesota Duluth's football team has won at least a share of the North Division title every single year. Last year, UMD split part of the title with Bemidji State. And coming into this past weekend, the Bulldogs and Beavers were tied again, each with 6-1 overall records. They would leave the weekend untied, however, as Bemidji State took on Minnesota Duluth in a powerhouse matchup along the northern shore. Second quarter, UMD firmly in command and adding to its lead. Drew Bauer up top, Jason Baltz coming on down, 35-yard touchdown. Bulldogs lead the Beavers 27-7 at halftime. Third quarter, now 27-10, but UMD staying grounded. Bo Bofferding right into your living room, 22 yards. Minnesota Duluth up 34-10. But Bemidji State would mount a comeback just 18 seconds later. Jordan Hine, back from injury, airs it out for a leaping Blake Holder, 60-yard pitch and catch. Beavers down 34-18. Bemidji now down 41-18 in the fourth, but continuing to air it out. Hine over the middle to Brady Schmidt, and he does the rest. 90-yard touchdown, longest play of the season. Beavers down 41-26. Next Bemidji State possession, the aerial assault keeps dropping bombs. Hine to Dexter Taylor Jr. this time, 56 yards, 41-33. Bulldogs would always stay a step ahead despite 5 second-half touchdown passes from Hine. Brady Schmidt gets another one here to pull within 54-47 with under a minute to go. But the onside kick does not work out, and the Bulldogs win a shootout over the Beavers to take sole possession of first place in the NSIC North. Meanwhile, in the NSIC South, Sioux Falls hoping to remain perfect against Concordia St. Paul. Luke Papillion rolls left, throws back right, and finds a wide-open Max Mickey. 30 yards, 7-0 USF. Tied at 7 now, Papillion once again buying some time. He'll hit Kyle Athman, 18-yard strike. Cougars regain the lead at 13-7. Second quarter now, USF starts to run away with it literally. Max Mickey goes untouched up the middle, 76 yards to pay dirt. The Cougars now lead at 20-7. The ground game has been Sioux Falls' foundation all season long. This time it's Justin Folks with a 10-yard score. USF had 249 rushing yards as they run past Concordia St. Paul by the score of 51-17. Another Big South matchup, Winona State at Wayne State. Tied at 7 in the second, the Warriors' Jack Nelson to Connor Schultz, 47 yards. Winona State takes a 14-7 lead. It's 20-7 in the third, Warrior defense making a difference. Errant pass from Zach Osborne is picked up by Cole Moncton. He does the rest. 34-yard pick six, 27-7 Winona State. They would put things away in the fourth. Nelson to Will Clausen, 34-yard offensive touchdown. Winona State over Wayne State, 41-20. So with the win by Minnesota Duluth over Bemidji State, as well as victories from Sioux Falls and Winona State, the playoff picture starts to come into focus. All four of those NSIC teams make the first list of the Super Region 3 rankings, where the top 7 teams qualify for the postseason. Sioux Falls at 8-0 is currently the number 2 seed in the region, behind number 1 Northwest Missouri State, who is also 8-0. Minnesota Duluth at 7-1 is the number 4 seed. Currently on the outside looking in, Bemidji State and Winona State are 9th and 10th respectively with 6-2 marks. So overall, the Beavers and Warriors will need to keep winning and get some help. The Bulldogs from UMD should be secure with at least a playoff spot provided they don't stumble down the stretch. But the Cougars have a great opportunity this weekend to distinguish themselves. USF will face Minnesota State, and should the Cougs come out with a win, it may be enough to propel them to the number 1 seed. We'll obviously have to wait and see, but this is the situation with 3 weeks to go in the regular season. When we come back, we'll check in on the rest of the football slate, including an offensive explosion from Trey Hyde and the Augustana Vikings at Upper Iowa.
The Northern Sun Experience on Midcoast Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and Dakota Land Honda.
Welcome back to the Northern Sun Experience. Southwest Minnesota State is perhaps the most difficult NSIC team to figure out right now. The Mustangs started the year with a win over Minnesota Duluth, which is still the Bulldogs' only loss. But SMSU fell last week at home to Wayne State, a team below 500. And not only did the Mustangs lose at home, they had a short week to recover. SMSU traveled from Marshall to Mankato for a Thursday night game at Minnesota State. And the Mavs struck on their first possession. Ricky Lloyd to Eric Fuller, 8-yard touchdown and an early 7-0 lead. Tied at 7 now in the second, Mavs using a QB platoon once again. Ryan Schlichty, great pump fake, and he finds Ty Dennis, 28-yard strike to make it 14-7 MSU. The Mustangs would hang tough. Max Simmons up the middle from 4 yards out, and we're tied at 14 at halftime. Second half, though, Mavs take the lead and never look back. Lloyd back at quarterback, finding Shane Zylstra. Nifty moves to get into the end zone. 24 yards, 21-14 Minnesota State. Into the fourth now, Lloyd rolling to his right, and he's going to find Brent Esser for another touchdown. Lloyd had a season-high 4 touchdowns on the night. Minnesota State tops Southwest Minnesota State 35-20. Augustana at Upper Iowa Saturday. First play from scrimmage, Trey Hyde to Nathan Merriman. Check out the moves to avoid tacklers. An unbelievable effort. 7-0 Vikings. Later in the first, off-play action, Hyde with all kinds of time, and he'll eventually hit Matt Heller from 30 yards out. 14-0 Augustana. Vikings just keep on rolling in the first. Hyde to Nate Winter, 2 yards, and it's 21-0. Into the second, Hyde to a wide-open Jake Welsheimer. 27-0 Augustana. The Peacocks would try to stop the bleeding through the ground game. Ryan Parmalee goes 33 yards to the house. That would cut the lead to 27-7, but a career game from Trey Hyde would simply be too much. 466 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, another touchdown rushing. Augustana tops Upper Iowa 54-35. St. Cloud State taking on Northern State in Aberdeen. Huskies strike first. Nate Meyer to Nick Greenland, 12 yards out. 7-0 St. Cloud State. Wolves respond on the ensuing possession. Shovel pass to Zach Barber, who's a cut above. 5-yard touchdown, and we're tied at 7. Later in the first, Huskies retake the lead. Joe Blando with a short touchdown run. But in a game with 6 different lead changes, the Wolves have the last laugh. Nick Truen with the touchdown here as Northern State wins a nail-biter 29-28. Minnesota Crookston taking on Minot State Saturday, and this back has been making waves the past few weeks. Ben Zonizer gets through the initial line of defense and never looks back. 65 yards to the house, 7-0 Beavers. But the Golden Eagles would score 20 unanswered points, capped by their defense. Eric Berner steps in front and burns the Beavers. 75-yard interception returned the other way. Minnesota Crookston leads it 20-7. But Minot State would ride its workhorse to a comeback victory. Zonizer gets some great block in the clear lane for this 43-yard touchdown. That cuts the lead to 20-14. And then the Beavers take the lead for good on this 45-yard bounce back to the left. Zonizer had 264 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns. Minot State notches its second win of the season, 38-30 over Minnesota Crookston. Final game of the weekend, MSU Moorhead at UMary, the battle for the paddle. Austin Stone starts things off with a 1-yard touchdown in the first. And then in the second, Demetrius Carr is going to lob it up for Damon Gibson. Great catch and fight for the ball. 10-yard score, 13-0 Dragons. Later in the second, Carr with the great read option fake goes right up the middle. MSU Moorhead with a 20-0 lead. UMary tries to make up some ground on the ground with a short Zach Graves touchdown, but the Dragons' Carr was running full speed ahead. 61 yards on this read option, wide open space in front of him, as the Dragons fly past the Marauders 47-16. So MSU Moorhead gets back to 500, and with that victory, they'll have a chance to go above 500 when they host Minot State on Saturday. For the first time this season, all 8 NSIC football games will start at the same time, 1 p.m. Other matchups include Concordia St. Paul at Southwest Minnesota State, Northern State at UMary, and Wayne State at Upper Iowa. Bemidji State will look to get back on track and gain some ground in the regional rankings when they visit St. Cloud State. Minnesota Duluth will hope to solidify its status as the Bulldogs travel to Minnesota Crookston. Winona State has a tough battle this weekend, traveling to Augustana to contend with a high-flying Viking offense. And the game of the week features 8-0 Sioux Falls at 6-2 Minnesota State. Last season, the Mavericks came to Sioux Falls and thumped the Cougars 44-3. So not only will USF be looking to move to 9-0, but they'll be seeking some payback as well. Still to come on the Northern Sun Experience, highlights and reaction from the NSIC Cross Country Championships in Sioux Falls. Welcome back to the Northern Sun Experience. The The NSIC's first conference championship of the 2016-17 season was held this past weekend in cross country. More than 240 runners across the men's and women's divisions made their way to Sioux Falls for the annual competition. To Yankton Trail Park we go, 135 women's contestants navigating the course on Saturday. A beautiful day for a race, especially compared to the mud of the Roy Griak last month. And in the end, Minnesota Duluth's Emily Trost emerged victorious, crossing the finish line with a time of a little more than 19 minutes and 51 seconds, 3 seconds ahead of UMary's Alexis Zeiss. Afterwards, Trost discussed the conditions and how she was thankful for a dry surface.
The course is a little bumpy, but I'm pretty used to that. I grew up in the country where I ran on pasture all the time, so that didn't really bother me at all. It was like the first dry course I've run on this year, so it was really fun to not have a really soggy, squishy course. And obviously, really flat was really nice.
So Trost takes first place over Alexis Zeiss. UMary's Ida Narboval finishes in third, with Minnesota Duluth's Brianna Colbinson in fourth, and MSU Moorhead's Molly Montagne in fifth. From a team perspective, with 4 of the top 8 runners overall, UMary won its first conference championship title with a total of 33 points. Minnesota Duluth is second with 47 points. Winona State and MSU Moorhead tied for third with 117 points, while Augustana finished fifth with 135 points. To the men's side of the championship, 108 competitors traversing Yankton Trail Park, and in the end it was a Viking runner who had a bit of a home court advantage. Augustana's Glenn Ellington won going away, taking the race in a time of 22 minutes and 10 seconds, nearly 12 seconds ahead of second place Cody Christ of MSU Moorhead. The Vikings also took home their 8th consecutive team title. Afterwards, Augustana coach Tracy Hellman discussed the strategy both Glenn and the rest of his team took on the course.
I knew Glenn's fitness was strong, but I also knew that he wasn't going to just walk away with it. So that was a great move on his end to keep patient, and then break away toward the latter part of the race. And you saw that was a decisive move too, because it opened up toward the end.
Winona State's Seth Reel finishes in third, followed by Augie's Nathan Haug in fourth. MSU Moorhead's Josh Young finished in fifth place. From the team side of things, as I mentioned, the Vikings won their 8th straight NSIC Conference Championship. Augustana had 5 of the top 9 runners overall. MSU Moorhead was second, UMary was third, Minnesota Duluth finished fourth, and Minnesota State finished in fifth. Let's switch gears to volleyball. Number 1 Minnesota Duluth at number 9 Wayne State on Friday. Early on, it was the Bulldog defense doing work. Sydney Mock and Sarah Kelly team up on the block. Wayne State kept persisting, however. The setup for Michaela Mestel, she gets the kill, one of her 8 on the night. But the Bulldogs had too much bite. First, it's Taylor Wisbrocker showing some finesse, getting it just inside the line. And then later on, the setup for Allison Ollie, and she hammers it home. Minnesota Duluth tops Wayne State 3-1. Another tough match awaited UMD Saturday as they visited Augustana. First set, Vikings in control. Anna Sikora sets up Courtney Place, putting it in the right place, and Augie takes set 1. Second set, Vikings continue to dictate the pace. Sikora sets up Kelsey Kaufman this time for the hammer. Augie takes the first 2 sets. Match point now for Augustana, the setup for Brittany Check, and her power is too much for the Bulldogs. After 2 losses last week to Winona State and Wayne State, the Vikings bounce back and hand Minnesota Duluth its first loss of the season, 3-1. So despite UMD finally suffering its first loss, the Bulldogs' place at the top remains the same. Minnesota Duluth is still the number 1 team in the AVCA coaches poll, although the number of first place votes they received dropped from 47 to 29. Southwest Minnesota State gets 16 first place votes as they hang on to the number 2 spot, while Concordia St. Paul is number 3. Winona State remains at 6, while Augustana moves up 1 spot to number 7. Wayne State also moves up 1 position to number 8, while Northern State remains unchanged from last week at number 13. When we come back, we continue to spotlight distinguished alumni from across the NSIC by looking at a pair of Augustana siblings who still work hard both on and off the court. Welcome back to the Northern Sun Experience. It's time once again to name another member of the NSIC's 25th anniversary team. Congrats to former Winona State football player Nate Gruber. A 2-time All-American and 3-time All-Conference defensive back, Gruber was the recipient of the 1994 Glenn Galligan Award, honoring an academically superior student athlete. Gruber's 25 career interceptions are the most in Winona State history and remain the 11th most in Division II history. Well, Casey Schilling just graduated from Augustana after leading the Vikings to the 2016 D2 National Basketball Championship. His older brother Cody left the Vikings as the school's all-time leading scorer in 2012. The siblings have shared plenty in their lives, and in this week's Under the Northern Sun, we see that includes their love of the game and a love for their hometown.
Fall for the Schilling family marks the beginning of 2 new seasons, harvest and basketball.
So I actually got married on July 1st to my wife, Mariah, and I started farming. So I'm managing about 3,500 pigs of my dad's, and then help out my brother with his hogs also. And then I'm just farming a little quarter right outside of Ellsworth. So it's been a good start, and it's one of those you kind of learn really quick.
Here we go. I'm the lead trainer for Warwick Workouts here at Avera Sports in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We work out anywhere from about 5,000 to 6,000 athletes a year all across the Midwest, anywhere from middle school kids to high school players all the way to college and NBA players. Yesterday I actually had a day off from Avera, so I went back to Minnesota for about 5-6 hours and helped drive tractor and just unload some wagons on the go, and we were combining corn that day.
From the hard work of farming in Ellsworth, Minnesota to the hard wood of being an Augustana Viking, the Schilling brothers started competing early.
First one to finish their meal. First one, when we were younger, my dad always had a joke, who's going to go run and get the mail? And we'd always race to the mailbox and back and tackle each other about 10 times on the way out there.
I think that really kind of shaped my style, where it was kind of get tough quick. And so I think that's really what made me the player I was at Augie. Yeah, it was always a battle. My brother Kurt played at Northwestern in Orange City, Iowa, and Cody obviously played at Augie, and then I went to Augie. And
Augustana's only about 50 miles away from our farm in Minnesota.
Always grown up around Sioux Falls. We're 45 minutes away, so we went there all the time. Really got comfortable with it when started going to Cody's games when he played from 2008 to 2012. I was about probably halfway through my freshman season, towards the end. He was like, hey, let's go work out.
Casey was always kind of the little guy growing up.
We played the first game and I beat him like 5-1. And I was like, oh, all right. And then I beat him the second game, beat him the third game, beat him the fourth game. And then I kind of look at him like, hey, you trying anymore, or are you just old and out of shape?
And I kind of kept telling people, I said, I think he's going to break all my records.
Schilling end to end.
He outscored me in college. He ends up winning the national title.
I think it was then I was like, yep, you can pass the torch now.
Going coast to coast.
It took me a good 10-15 seconds to realize, oh man, this is real. We did it. All the hard work. I don't know, a guy came and he put the trophy in front of me, so I grabbed it and I put it over my head and I was freaking out and I was pumped. I believe that, a good Christian liberal arts school like that you're gonna have good people around you.
When I think about Augustana, I think about number one, Coach Billiter, how lucky I was to play for a guy like that, who was just kind of a father mentor to me for 4 years.
Coach B, he's a great man. You think he's a great coach, but he's also a great man.
Casey and Cody, both education majors, also found a classroom coach that inspired them.
My advisor, Matt Johnson, was probably the best guy out there for me. He was just a down-to-earth guy. Matt was the Augie Doggy back in the day, and so that was really cool. We had a throwback game, and he was actually out there, and he got the old Augie Doggy outfit back out and bringing out all of his tricks from back in the day.
It was so awesome to see Mr. Johnson out there with his toilet seat clapper.
For these brothers, in both new seasons ahead, that of harvest.
I just decided at the end of the day, the tradition that our family has with farming, I wanted to kind of keep that up.
And of basketball.
The game of basketball gave so much to me, where it's just something where now I feel like I can give so much back to these middle schoolers and high schoolers and even the college guys that have so many questions about the next 4 years in their future. I want them to look at me and just say, hey, that's a guy that's kind of been there, done that. And if I'm a great listener and a hard worker, I can learn a lot from a trainer like that.
Family always stays close.
When we come back, it's DB's Picks, my top 5 plays of the past week.
The Northern Sun Experience on Midcoast Sports Network is presented by Sanford Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and Dakota Land Honda.
Welcome back. It's time for DB's Picks, my top 5 plays of the past week. At number 5, Northern State does its best SMSU impression. The reverse flea flicker nets the Wolves 35 yards on the first play from scrimmage. The pass from Christian McElvain to Tyler Huchin was a good start to the day for the Wolves and a good start to our top 5 countdown. At number 4, it's 4 touchdowns from Minot State's Ben Zahnizer. The true freshman from California notched a career-high 4 touchdowns on 264 yards rushing in the Beavers' win over Minnesota Crookston. Over the past 2 weeks, Zahnizer's racked up 375 yards and 6 touchdowns, but his 4-pack against the Golden Eagles runs away with play number 4. At number 3, it's another runaway, only this time from Demetrius Carr. The Dragons QB uses the read option as well as anyone, and he fooled the U-Mary defense into giving him a clear path for a 61-yard touchdown and a clear path to the 3rd best play of the week. But Carr would keep on driving for play number 2, only this time he's sharing the love. Check out the grab by Damon Gibson going up high and wrestling it away from the Marauder defense. Gibson's known for snagging these jump balls, and he does his part in MSU Moorhead's win. But our top play of the week goes to the elusive Nate Merriman. He weasels his way out of 2 separate tackles and dives for the end zone for Augustana. Check it out one more time. Merriman never gives up on the play, and he uses his strength to get the extra yards for the score. That was the Vikings' first touchdown of the day, and it also happens to be my number 1 play. Once again, a thank you to all of our NSIC member schools for their contributions. Tune in next week for another Northern Sun Experience.